Napoleon Hill was talking about his little infant son who was born completely 100% deaf. But Napoleon Hill, from all his studies and research with successful people, knew that if you used autosuggestion, he really had such a faith that anything was possible. Anything could be achieved. So he went into his little infant son's room every night and said, "You hear perfectly, son. You grow up to be a magnificent man. You're compassionate, you're loving, you're wealthy, and you hear perfectly." By the time the kid was 3.5, I think, don't quote me, but around then, he got 30% of his hearing, and the doctors were amazed.
San Diego 911 emergency. You need to come right away. There's a man with a gun and it's loaded. Receiving emergency signal from 4 George 1141. We've got a white female down. We need paramedics code please. All available units roll code that
way. Welcome to the De-Escalation Conversations podcast. With us today is just a truly amazing lady, Michele Blood. Michele was a rock singer in Australia who suffered a near fatal car accident. And she did, after that, created positive affirmation songs that not only healed her body, but also took her to worldwide success. These affirmation songs affect both the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. Lyrics, the left hemisphere, and melody and music, the right hemisphere. So the new positive messages go straight to the subconscious mind. And we talk a lot about neuroscience on this podcast. You know, with IDEA, the International De-Escalation Association, we have 3 pillars that all of our training is based on, which is neuroscience, personality science, and core human drivers. And so when I heard about Michele, it fits perfectly with how we teach you to de-escalate and communicate and negotiate with people who are not at the best spot in their life. So with Michele, millions of people have downloaded her affirmation power songs. And these songs cover healing, success, money, joy, confidence, and they uplift you immediately. In addition to creating the Magnet to Success products and seminars worldwide, her public mystical success events, which I definitely want to be talking about those, have been held in over 26 countries. Michele has co-written and created over 80 books, music CDs, audio programs, TV shows, and videos on positive thought, mind transformation, and meditation. Michele, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's really good to be here, Carrie, and much love to you, Diane.
Yes. So Diane was, we were hoping to have her on the show with us today. And unfortunately, she's not able to make it. She just got back from an overseas travel. And so she's on a commission right now, but look for other episodes that she's on with us. So Michele, what's the background story? I know you had that near fatal car accident and led you to a lot of different things, but why don't you share with our listeners a little bit more about how you got started in this world?
Well, I was singing professionally since I was 5 on TV in Australia. And eventually I put together many, many bands as the lead singer. I was always the manager and co-songwriter. And I eventually got the most amazing band together. And at one stage we toured nonstop for 7 years. I mean, nonstop. No Christmas vacation, no nothing. Just because once you get the gigs, the way it works in Australia, they're booked 6 months in advance. So if you don't say yes to every time you get a gig until you're really well known, after we were more well known, we could, choose what we wanted because we had a big management company by then and Time Warner was our record label. But it was really, really tough. But I loved it because, you have to be so strong and resilient to be able to handle Australian drunks when you're at a gig. The smaller gigs are much harder because they can throw stuff at you and yell at you. But so I went through every gamut you can imagine. So I ended up being a very courageous woman, young woman. And but it was worth it to me because I loved what I did. And I loved being able to turn around any audience and see them dancing and happy. And, it was just, I loved it. I loved my band. They were great. But then I had coming back from a 12-hour journey from Brisbane to Sydney, the driver fell asleep. And as the passenger, the musical equipment in the truck fell into me. He went into a telephone pole. But the interesting thing is, I was so broken up, so many bones, and just smashed here and there. And but the accident occurred across the road from North Shore Hospital in Sydney, which is one of the best in the world for that type of stuff that had happened to me, the best doctors in the world. So it was interesting. They could pretty much put me in traction. And then by the next day, the first operation was already on the way. I was in there for months and months. And when you're in that much physical agony, I literally pass out every few minutes. The pain was so bad. Even with the pethidine drip, it was just so bad. They say that those things work, but I don't know. The pain just still comes through. And so I was, I didn't know what I would do with my life if I couldn't dance on the stage doing my crazy antics. So I got very depressed as well as being in physical pain and wasn't very responsive to anybody. But people were very relentless in wanting to get me into a positive vibration. After the last operation, which was 17 and a half hours, somebody put on a tape. For those young kids, it's a cassette. You might have seen them in the archives of history. Anyway, they put on a cassette of Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, Earl Nightingale speaking it. And I love the tone of Earl Nightingale's voice. This is a book that was written in the 1920s for male entrepreneurs in America. What had that to do with a young female rock singer? Nothing, you would think, right? But I couldn't move, so I couldn't turn it off to stop it. So when it came to a chapter where Napoleon Hill was talking about his little infant son who was born completely 100% deaf, but Napoleon Hill, from all his studies and research with successful people, knew that if you used autosuggestion, he really had such a faith that anything was possible. Anything could be achieved. So he went into his little infant son's room every night and said, "You hear perfectly, son. You grow up to be a magnificent man. You're compassionate, you're loving, you're wealthy, and you hear perfectly." By the time the kid was 3.5, I think, don't quote me, but around then, he got 30% of his hearing, and the doctors were amazed. But the little boy went on, because I did a bit of research after that book, he went on to become one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the hearing aid industry, really made them do research to make hearing aids even better. So that was quite interesting. And, when you may not have heard of something before, like affirmations or autosuggestion, but there's something within you, your consciousness, that clicks. It goes into the marrow of your bones. You just know, you believe what that person just said. It rings something true within you. And that's what happened to me, Kerry. I was like, I absolutely believe that. I'm going to do affirmations. So I attempted to do an affirmation. I am healed. I know I am. I love myself. I am my friend. None of those things were real or true. So it was the perfect affirmation, because you've got to state it in the now as if it's already happened. But the trick is you've got to emotionalize it so it'll go into your subconscious mind. Now, Napoleon Hill said this years before all the studies were done about affirmations and positive thinking. And so it was really quite fascinating that he just studied this and just knew it. Anyway, so I did it, but it wasn't working for me, Kerry, because my doubting mind, I'm in the hospital in traction. I'm in extreme agony. And I'm doing it. I'm doing the affirmations over and over again. I am healed. I know. I stopped doing it after a couple of weeks because I realized I was never going to emotionalize or believe it. I'm in the hospital. What I'm looking at is telling me fact, not fiction, right? But then I had an epiphany after the last operation. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sing it. I got friends and people to go out, and I said, get affirmation music. That's what I need. I need the affirmations with music. But there wasn't any such thing at the time. Nothing. No one had ever done it. So I just, on my little tape recorder, which I always had with me in case I got an idea for a song, I am healed, I know I am. I love myself, I am my friend. And I sang it over and over and over again until I filled up this 90-minute tape. And I kept listening to it over and over again. And I've done so much scientific study with John Hopkins and Berkeley, and I've got all the scientific studies. But back then, there were no studies that were done in the late 80s about this type of thing. But what I realized was the left side of the brain was taking in the lyrics, the affirmation, the right side, the music and the melody, and it just goes straight into your subconscious mind. They've proven it works 300 times faster than any other affirmation way. Writing them, saying them are all good. But if you can't emotionalize it, and with a song, you can't get it out of your head, which is the trick. So all you have to do is listen, which is why advertising agencies spend billions, not millions a year, on songs, on jingles, so that you will have, once you've got that jingle in your head, you have their product in your head forever, like it or not. So that's how it began.
Wow, what an amazing story. And, you know, the reality is this. There's a lot of first responders, cops and firefighters in particular. We tend to get a little cynical, especially the more time we spend on the job. Medics, same way. Nurses, doctors, same way. So anybody who's a first responder tends to be a little cynical. And I know that when I first heard about affirmations, I flash back to when I was a young man, and they mocked affirmations. I mean, it was on Saturday Night Live, and you know, everything was mocking affirmations. It was in the movies. And so I had heard about affirmations, but I always dismissed them. And then later on, as I kind of got reintroduced to affirmations, I initially went, well, yeah, that's just a bunch of hooey. So for our listeners, I want you to know what Michele just shared. And she made the point of it. There is scientific research. Everything that we do here at the De-Escalation Association, we have a white paper for. There's not anything that we teach that isn't scientifically proven, scientifically based, whether it's brain-centric design, our neuroscience tools to be able to influence and persuade other people, personality science, everything, including what Michelle's talking about right now. And I just want to offer to you, if you are kind of having that same reaction that I did when I heard about affirmations, got reintroduced to them, be willing to put your disbelief on pause just for a little bit, and continue to listen to this episode. So if you're even close to going, I think I'm gonna listen to something else, hold tight, because what Michele has to share is simply amazing. So Michele, I want to, after I put my soapbox away for just a moment, I want to go back to what you said about the songs being 300% more powerful than writing or saying them to yourself, and the fact that you stumbled on the emotionality component and the answer to that for you. Because saying the words weren't working because your circumstances and the words that you were saying were disconnected, but you stumbled on the song. Do you think that was because of your professional singing since you were 5? Or what do you think that was that brought that awareness to you?
Yeah, good question. It's fascinating to me. Things don't amaze me anymore. I used to be like gobsmacked at everything that I would see manifesting around me that I'd never believed in or didn't understand. And it was just fascinating that these things were happening, the way my body healed immaculately, the different things that were going on. But I think I'd actually written and sang for advertising agencies over the years to get extra money. I never told my band I did it because that would be really uncool for a rock singer, but I did it, and that helped pay a lot of the bills for the bands, that's for sure. And I couldn't believe how much I'd get paid for writing a jingle or singing a jingle. And it was just, and I said to them, why do you guys spend so much money? When I worked for Nestle, I said, why do you spend so much money on all of this? And they said, because it's been proven that music with our message, the people can't get it out of their head. That's why it's the most important proponent for us in advertising, is to have a jingle. Otherwise, it's not going to stay in the person's head. And I always found that fascinating. And so I'd remembered that. I've remembered that from doing the jingles. So I think that's what, because I said to myself, my higher self, I didn't realize I was speaking to my higher self, the one that knows more than Michele does. What can I do? Just like a scientist goes into a dark room and they're wanting to invent something, and they're like, how can I make this happen? How can I create this, the light bulb? First of all, all of them that I've read about, because I just find scientists, inventors, magical beings, and because they never give up, they don't fail. They just keep going until it's created. And they go into a room with a pen and paper, into a dark room, and they say, how can this be created? So I was doing that, especially at night. I'm in a hospital room on my own, and I just kept saying, how I'm going to pretend I'm a scientist, I'm an inventor. How can I make these affirmations get into my head? So I meditated on it, and one morning I woke up and the answer was there. So that's why I got everyone to go out and get me affirmation music, but there wasn't any. Wow. So yeah, interesting, fascinating. So
let's take that foundation and let's leap forward for just a moment, because I want to go back in time again. But where you are today, you have affirmation music that you've created.
Yeah,
and you provide it to other people?
I've got lots and lots and lots of albums that I've done over the years. I've even got affirmation songs for kids, which Dr. Chopra, when I was touring with him, said, why don't you do it for kids? They will work super powerfully for their mind because they're so open and receptive. And that's called self-esteem songs for kids. I can do it with all these little baby animals who I'm doing all the voiceover because I can do any sort of voiceover. And I was doing the voiceover pretending they were pandas and where they came from in the world. And then I would sing the song, and I'd record myself doing their voice, and I'd have them singing it with me. And when I did the Bengal tiger puppy, the baby Bengal tiger with the Indian accent, Dr. Chopra said my Indian accent was better than his.
You would be the expert on that, whether or not it was authentic.
Right.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so you have kids. Yeah.
You have kids affirmations. You have stuff for self-esteem. What other categories do you have affirmations for?
Well, for healing, for happiness, for confidence, for persistence, for success, for motivation, absolutely. And the late great Bob Proctor and I worked together for 7 years, and he co-wrote with me the album Songs for Success. And all you have to do is listen, and they're beautifully crafted and produced, because I'd been doing that for years. I didn't ever intend on selling this affirmation music, Kerry. It was just something I did for myself. And I went into a little studio after I was well to record and write a lot more affirmation songs. I couldn't get them out of my head, just for my own consciousness, because I realized if that can heal my body, what can it do for attracting money or success or persistence or assisting my band to be more positive? They all got into helping me with it. And then promoters heard about my healing, and because I was interviewed a lot, because my healing was so miraculous, I was interviewed on TV and magazines and stuff in Australia. So promoters came out of the woodwork and said, we want you to tour Australia singing and speaking just a little bit in between Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Stuart Wilde. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about or who these people are. I said, I've never heard of any of this. I don't, I'm motivated on my own. I've always had strong willpower, so I don't know what you're talking about. So I said, no, I'm not interested. And they said, but we'll pay you $5,000 per city, per gig, and you can sell your CDs at the back of the room. And I said, what CDs? My rock and roll music. I said, that's through Time Warner. And they said, no, your affirmation music, you can self-publish it. And so, I found out how to do that. And so I did it. I put them onto a CD, and I only brought 500 to the first gig in Adelaide. And they were sold out in the first break.
Wow.
I'd never made so much money in one gig in my life, except maybe occasional jingle. And I got to meet these guys, and I really liked them. And we would all hang out at night in between cities and have dinner. And I asked them so many questions, and they were all, we've never seen an audience get on fire like they have for you. And they knew who I was anyway, the audience. But they said we all talk about visualization, affirmation in our own different ways all the time. That's what we teach. And you're doing it in a way that is entertaining. The crowd is loving it. You've got the crowd up on stage singing along with you. And we just think you should go overseas and do this and make it like really do it. And so that's how it changed. And I loved doing it. I loved seeing these people come in, and I began to be able to see when you're not just in a room full of 4,000 drunk Australians at a gig, and it's daytime, you see 3,500 people per gig that are all from all walks of life. And I'm like, what are they doing here? They all paid like $350 at the time. I was like, that's a fortune for a ticket to see some speaker. But they were so open and receptive. And I was talking to Deepak, and I said, what do they, and they said, well, they're in pain, in some sort of pain. And they come across one of our books or one of our talks, and they're like, they'll do anything to get themselves released from suffering, because suffering is something people really don't know how to release themselves from sometimes. And that's how they find us. But now we've found you. We want to work with you in our gigs. So I ended up working with a lot of them for years. But Bob Proctor was the one I worked with for the longest, because as soon as I worked with him, he couldn't believe the stage. He couldn't believe the audience. He just thought it was outrageous. He didn't want a singer to start with, but the promoters said, we're bringing you from Canada to Australia, and she's the real McCoy, so too bad. But after the first break, he went, back to the green room, and he said, I want to work with you all over the world. That's it. You have got something unique that can change people's lives. And so he did. So, yeah, many, many albums. I had put out a new album just last year.
Congratulations. And what a huge compliment. I had the pleasure of meeting Bob Proctor several years ago, probably 6 or 7 years ago at least. And what an amazing man. And so to be able to travel with him, and I've followed Bob Proctor, so many of his different programs I invested in, and he has a ton of free stuff on YouTube. If you're listening to this or watching this episode on YouTube, Bob Proctor is definitely somebody to check out. But what a huge compliment for him just to immediately recognize the value that you were bringing and how you were able to help change people's lives. That's terrific. And the reality is, teachers, first responders, flight attendants that we help, and I always say we help flight attendants because there's no cover at 37,000 feet. You're on your own. And so with all of the different people that we help, the wellness factor, being able to take a step back because you're in public service. Everybody that we help is in public service, whether you're teaching, you're a cop, a firefighter, in medical services, flight attendant, you're serving the public. And that can be really draining, and it can take a toll on you. And the things that you're exposed to, the hits that you take repeatedly, even if they're not causing physical damage, they're causing mental, emotional, spiritual damage at some level. And being able to take a step back and be able to have the opportunity to heal yourself, and the tools that you offer are a great way to be able to do that. That's critical for being able to stay long-term in a career. I did 30 years in law enforcement, and quite honestly, I got beat up during my career. I took some hard hits. And so being able to use your tools and start to recover through that method has just been such a blessing. So on a personal level, thank you, Michele, for all of these things that you've done. I'm curious, as you were creating these affirmation songs and recording them, you must have some amazingly cool stories for how these ideas came to you and what the experience was like in the studio. Can you share some of those stories?
Yeah, one of the things, because you're talking about lovely Bob, Saint Bob, I call him.
Saint Bob, I love it.
I ended up living in Kuala Lumpur for 3.5 years, running his business and my business. And he was writing songs with me. He would come every month. And we actually trained Malaysia Airlines, all 5,000 people over a 2-year period. They would bring in 250 people every month for a 2-day event Bob and I put on. Wow. And so we trained all of Malaysia Airlines people and they ended up becoming, a lot of them, really good friends. And I'm still in contact with some of the flight attendants because they were just so into it. And they're mainly Muslim men and women, mainly in Malaysia, but they were just, they'd be flown in from wherever they were stationed, every month. And so that was interesting to do that. And I remember Nestle having me train their sales force all over Asia because they said, we don't give commission like the West. And our salespeople get very depressed when they're not getting the job done and then they get fired because they've got no incentive. And I toured for about 8 weeks doing all the salespeople for Nestle. And their production went up 60% in the first 6 months after that. Because it just, once they've got, everyone's got once you've got a little bit, like Bob and I put 3 years into a program called New Paradigms and an audio program. And we'd create a song to go with the talk. We'd edit the talk together and then I'd produce Bob speaking the talk and they were just great. And so many people said to us that are well known, you can't label your program New Paradigms. Nobody knows hardly what an affirmation is, let alone what a paradigm is. And Bob, in his wisdom and sense of humor, said, but after they listen to this, everyone will know what a paradigm is. I'm telling you, we've got to educate them, don't we, Michele? So in 2021, we were always going to do a book to go with it. And I never got around to doing it. So if anyone would like, because we just released it, New Paradigms, it's got 8 audio programs by me and Bob, and all the New Paradigm songs, action, persistence, success, you name it. And it's got the book as well. And so if you'd like that as a free gift, all you have to do is email me and I've just launched it and I'll give it to you as a free gift in memory of the great Bob Proctor, because you will love what he says, particularly when we talk about releasing fear and how you can go much higher in your life, no matter where you are or what your circumstances are or what your job description is. You can improve your life, your happiness. And I just wanted to read something from David Merton, if I may, about suffering.
Yeah, please.
The great and late Saint Merton, the 7 stories of truth, he wrote, he was talking about suffering. Indeed, the truth that many people never understand until it is too late is that the more you try to avoid suffering, the more you suffer, because smaller and more insignificant things begin to torture you in proportion to your fear of being hurt. The one who does most to avoid suffering is, in the end, the one who suffers most. And his suffering comes to him from little things so trivial that one can say it is no longer objective at all. It is his own existence, his own being, that is at once the subject and the source of his pain, and his very existence and consciousness is in his greatest torture. This is another of the great perversions. Use our philosophies to turn our whole nature inside out and negative and eviscerate all our capacities for good, turning them against ourselves. And I love this because this is something I teach at my events a lot, is don't you all of a sudden, oh, I've got to be positive. I'm going to be positive. And the person is afraid of being negative. They're afraid if they talk to someone who's depressed or sad that they'll catch it. No one wants to do that. You've got to be strong. You have to be strong, and you've got to face your own fears and your own suffering, because the more you complain about the world, that is a big red flag showing you that you are in fear of acknowledging what you're suffering. You're in fear of acknowledging your shadow side, or that side of you that you're afraid to talk about money because you need it. You're afraid to talk about love because you need it. You're afraid to talk about sex because you need it. You're afraid to talk about anything. You would rather fill it up with pizza or whatever you need to do. If you're not enjoying your life or your work, you can be enjoying anything that you do, any sort of work. Once you get that hum in your heart, like Paramahansa Yogananda in Autobiography of a Yogi said, I could work in a pineapple factory all day long because that hum in my heart is there all the time and nothing else disturbs my peace. And when you get into meditation practice, which I think is vital, I teach a lot of doctors and dentists meditation practice, Kerry, because dentists have a very large suicide rating for dentists. And doctors started coming to me. First of all, a couple of them came to one of my meditation events in San Diego. And I said, well, why are you guys here? You know, medical doctors, GPs. And they said, because we have been told now, this is from the Sharp Reese group. They said, we've been told to start teaching heart patients and different people, you know, with thyroid troubles to meditate, because it's been proven scientifically now that if you can learn to meditate, you can slow your metabolism, you can slow down your heart rate, and you can, your blood pressure will go down. And we want to learn how to meditate before we tell our patients about it so that we know what we're talking about. So I think the world is really waking up to, and I think it is because of neuroscience and, on my website, micheleblood.com, we've got tons of scientific proof from so many different amazing doctors and scientists on how music and meditation and positive thinking can really change you. But if you don't feel that you believe it, all you have to do is listen. It's worth a try. So if any of you would like to have the new paradigms for free as a gift, you can just go to micheleblood.com/de-escalation. And I will ask Trevor to whoever signs up for that to also send them the new paradigms, because you'll get $300 worth of our other best-selling positive products from micheleblood.com de-escalation, and you also will send you the new paradigms. This is just on the spot because you were talking about Bob, and I just thought everyone in the world must have some exposure to his work. And that particular program that we worked so hard on was done with so much joy and levity, and Bob singing along with a terrible singing voice that I nearly wet my pants in the engineering room listening to him singing it, because he wanted people to laugh. And I said, do you want me to keep that in there? And he's like, yeah, I want them to sing along. I want them to laugh. If Bob Proctor can make a fool of himself.
Right. Michele,
he was so irreverent and so funny. He's different from on stage. He's just like a force, Yeah. But off stage, he was just, play games and do stuff. And his wife and I, beautiful Linda, would just be like, oh no, he's going to do something at this event to trick someone or something. Like Jerry Roberts once, his mic was on when he went to the toilet. It was still on. And I went to turn it off, and Bob said, no, I'm going to embarrass him. He said, turn it up, put it through the speakers.
That's funny. That's funny.
You've got to have levity.
You've
got to be able to make fun of yourself and be able to face your own inner demons, because if you don't, it's like putting icing on an unbaked cake. Kiddies might want to eat it, but I don't think anyone else will want to.
Right. Well, and one of our core principles at IDEA is the concept of your mind can only be in one of two states, executive state or survival state. And when you're in fear and overwhelm, any negative emotions, you can identify survival state immediately. when you have that negative emotional state. Executive state is a positive emotional state, which is what your music, your affirmations do for people, is it shifts them out of survival state into executive state. And that alone has so many positive benefits because of the great neurotransmitters, the dose chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, norepinephrine. There's so much good that comes out of being in executive state, and you don't have the negative neurotransmitters and the chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol coursing through your system, which shifts your system into a very acidic state, which is horrible for your health, very, very hard on your body, which is why people have the physical manifestations of stress in illness and in exhaustion and loss of energy and productivity, all that stuff, loss of focus, because these chemicals are through your body. So what you're doing meshes so well with what we teach at IDEA about being in executive state, shifting yourself into executive state. And what you described about Bob, about the laughter and the being able to be vulnerable and have fun with it. That's all executive state. It's all positive emotional state stuff. And so I'm loving what you're hearing, because it just meshes so perfectly with what we teach in how do you show up and deal with somebody who's in survival state, who is having probably one of the worst days of their life. And for the law enforcement, and oftentimes, unfortunately, the firefighters and medics, when they have weapons and they're threatening to hurt themselves, or they're threatening to hurt other people, or they're in the process of hurting other people, how do you de-escalate that? Well, first, you have to start with yourself. And what you're doing for people is allowing them to start with themselves and be in a place where when they show up to that call, they're in the best place possible to be able to help this person now and be able to literally save lives. So I'm glad I'm wearing long sleeves, because the goosebumps that were going on as you were being so generous. You never, ever fail to amaze me. And you just did it again. Your generosity is so amazing. And thank you for the gift for the listeners. Listeners, if you're not taking advantage of this, micheleblood.com, and that's Michele with one L, micheleblood.com/de-escalation. If you're not like pausing this podcast and typing that into your phone or your computer and signing up for it, you need to be doing that right now. If you're listening to this, you're driving, you can't get to it right now. Don't worry. I'm going to put this link in the show notes. It'll be up on our YouTube channel, Facebook, as well as in the wherever you go for audio podcasts, whether it's Apple or Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're on all the different platforms. In those show notes will be that link so that you can access it. And I highly encourage you to, because Michele's stuff is amazing, and Bob Proctor is amazing too. So the fact that you got to partner so deeply with him is so cool. So
very cool.
what an amazing experience. So let me ask you this, as we kind of start to wind things up, is there a secret? Is there a tip or a hack that you can share with us? I go to listen to this stuff that you're gifting us. Do I need to? I'll give you one example. I know for one of the things that I listen to, they say don't use noise canceling headphones. Use regular headphones, because the noise canceling can actually remove some of the positive frequencies that you need. Positive being not positive and negative, just beneficial frequencies. Is there anything? Should I listen to this at night, in the morning? Should I listen to it while I'm driving or not while I'm driving? Help our listeners, and I'll be selfish. Help me understand what's the best way to use these things that you're providing for us.
I love noise cancellation headphones, because
okay. I do too personally, but I know sometimes that
that's what I definitely use, the Bose ones, because they're so strong. Because when I teach people meditation, you've got to block out the rest of the world and sound. So I recommend not my music for meditation, but different type of music for meditation so that the person can get into that stillness and that vibration. It does not take away the vibration that I'm transmitting at all.
Great.
Nothing can.
Great.
And so, I mean, when Bob and I were in the studio, people would come in and they'd feel zapped. They'd feel like they were levitating because Bob and I worked in such great synergy that we were just like, bam, 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 creative, nothing, bam, bam, new product, new idea, new event. And I'd never worked with anyone like that since, because he was on all the time and so was I. I was used to being on all the time. And so that was, it's so great when you can get to work with people that are a similar vibration where you just, it's all creative, it's all fun, it's all joy, it's buzzing. The air is buzzing with light. You can just feel it. So whenever you have an opportunity to listen to someone like that, like Bob Proctor, definitely do it, because he was the real McCoy. And I worked with a lot of well-known authors all over the world, sharing the stage with them because promoters, not necessarily because I knew them or I brought them on or just because a promoter would bring them on, but the two, Bob Proctor and Stuart Wilde, because I worked with Stuart Wilde a lot too. He was a Cockney Italian man, Sicilian, God, irreverent, but so funny and so spot on and so spiritual. I find the more irreverent someone is, the more highly spiritual they are, because you're not pretending to be a saint or anything. You're just, you're living. You want other people to live and enjoy that. It's like you couldn't ever watch Robin Williams' movie without feeling the joy and the light coming from that man, because he was just always on. His intelligence, his wisdom is just incredible. Anyway, what was the question?
The best way. Day, what you're doing, and
right. Where to begin?
How can we maximize the benefits?
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I almost didn't remember. I'm loving listening to you.
Well, the affirmation music, that's not for sleep time. That's for daytime. That's for put it in your car. You can even order CDs from us. We still have CDs, or just the MP3s. You can get my music on iTunes. You can get it all over the world, anywhere, any platform. But so that's just to keep yourself positive. Just listen to it, even if it's on soft. Just listen to it and let those affirmations go straight into your subconscious mind. And they will, even if you don't believe it, trust me, before you know it, you'll be like, decision, I'm making a good decision today. You'll be like, what? That's not like me. Persistence, I'm being persistent. I'm singing the song. Wow. People just crack themselves up because they're like, how did that happen from just listening to this bloody song? So that's for that. The magnetic creative visualization is a guided visualization to allow you to be very quiet, listen to it with the headphones. And there's a video, you can watch at any time. If you've got a bit of time, you can be on your own, watch the practice of meditation video. And these are all products that we sell. But one of the things I recommend for anyone who just wants to have something remind them, we created over 3 years, creating an app that we've called the Magnet to Money app, which you can see at the back here. And for just a cup of coffee a month, that's all it is, $4.99 a month. You get the Magnet to Money song notifications. You get a morning, every single morning, a different 8-minute meditation to focus on one thing for the day. All you have to do is listen. 8 minutes of your life to change your life in the morning. It's got a sleep program called the Angel Prosperity Sleep Program, which you listen to. You just put your iPhone on airport mode and put the headset on and you can listen to it. And people, the ravings of that one. And also tons and tons of affirmations with the music underneath. And you also get, even if you don't buy the app for $4.99, we are giving away our best-selling audio book by myself and Bob Proctor, Be a Magnet to Money Through the Sea of Unlimited Consciousness, which goes from all the basics of motivation and changing your mind into deep, deep levels of finding out where you really are in consciousness, all the different levels, where you're at. Are you at level 2? Are you at level 3? And explain to people what depression is, and I've taught nurses this, it really has helped them so much, teaching what depression is as opposed to a dark night of the soul, because a dark night of the soul is a spiritual gift that is very uncomfortable, whereas depression is about you. If you think you're having a dark night of the soul, but it's all about you, I'm so depressed, no one loves me, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not a dark night of the soul. A dark night of the soul is when we've cleared off our beautiful diamond. We've all got this higher self, and it's blocked by all the past experience of suffering, of any sort of emotional trauma. It's blocked, so we can't feel ourselves anymore. And once that starts to be unblocked by listening to the affirmation music, doing some meditation, or just listening to the app, it's just got so much stuff on it that you start feeling again. And that is when you start being able to understand who you are for the first time. You're not running away from yourself. You're not watching hours of television instead of working on yourself. So I love the app, magnettomoneyapp.com. It's only on iPhones. And the reason it's only on iPhones is because the intricate nature and the simplicity we've brought to anyone, even if they're not app savvy, which I wasn't, I just knew I wanted one, is hundreds of dollars worth of products for a cup of coffee a month, is just, I think, the best way to actually go through it. Because then if you like that, you just have to experiment to see which you like. Do you like the meditations in the morning? And I've had so much feedback from this app. It's just the reviews are out of the world. But Androids are very very challenging to make perfect, because they're all different companies and they all create their Androids differently. So to make a perfect app on an Android would take millions of dollars, I think, because we spent a fortune on just the iPhone app so to make it perfect. So, anyway, just wanted to mention that because it's a really, really cool and easy thing. You just listen and it reminds you to listen. You don't even have to remember.
That's awesome, because I need that. And what's cool is I use an Android phone, but I have an iPad.
Oh yeah, you can download.
So I can put the app on my iPad.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
Even though it's not my phone, it's still an Apple device, and so I'm still able to access it.
Yep.
That's awesome. $4.99 a month, in the big scheme of things, that's nothing, especially with all of the value that you get out of it. As you said, hundreds and hundreds of dollars of programs available for $4.99 a month. Pretty darn cool of you. Pretty darn cool. Gosh, Michele, I could talk to you for hours. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for sharing the resources, the gifts. For our listeners, as a quick recap, Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, absolutely one of the top 3 books that you should listen to. I don't care what you do in life. That's an amazing book. MicheleBlood.com with 1 L. MicheleBlood.com /de-escalation for some really, really cool gifts. And Michele, give us one more time the website that we go to for the app.
magnettomoneyapp.com.
magnettomoneyapp.com. If you're listening and you can't see the poster behind her, she has this really cool poster behind her. So if you are watching it, you can see it there. She's leaning out of the way. You're so sweet. I just think you're jamming to music like, Stevie Wonder. So you've given us so much. You've given us free resources. You've given us tips to be able to use those resources, and your gifts have changed so many lives. And thank you for what you do, and thank you for the service to our community of teachers, first responders, flight attendants. I couldn't have asked for anything better. You always exceed my expectations every time that I listen to you. And so if people wanted to see you live while you're appearing different places, can they go to micheleblood.com for that information as well?
Yeah, they can see the events. I put on usually 1 or 2 free Zoom events a month. I haven't started going out live again yet because I only just got back from Australia, but I will be in maybe by the end of the year or early January. I usually put on, I've got students, meditation students and different people from all over the world. And it's like a rock concert when you come to one of my events. You'll meet so many great people. They fly in from all over the world. We usually put it on in San Diego or Los Angeles. And we just have incredible weekends. And, you know, people just meet lifelong friends at our events as well. You'll have an awful lot of fun. And I just want to say thank you, as I always do. All the nurses and doctors at the Royal North Shore Hospital in Sydney, when I was in that hospital, and whoever's there now, I thank them with all of my heart because they were amazing. They were amazing people. I don't know how they do it, especially when you've got someone screaming in agony saying, don't, when they have to lift me every hour because I was in traction, and the pain from being lifted was just horrific. And I would be screaming at them, swearing at them, don't lift me, touch me. They were incredible, those guys, the male nurses that lifted me and the doctors. Can you imagine having to be doing an operation for 17 and a half hours? And that doctor was 65 at the time.
Wow. That's some dedication.
They're amazing. They're amazing. I just, you know, I just love them. And enforcement, I remember there was a huge storm and I couldn't close the storm door. And it was when I just bought this house. And so I called 911, and I just live in the countryside. But anyway, one of the sheriffs came in. The door was unlocked at the front, thank God. And he came in, and he was so lovely. And he's looking around at my house, and he's looking at all these pictures of saints and holy people and Buddhas, and then all these things for the cats. Big catio. The cats can go around. Everything was built. And he said, when I'm reincarnated, because after looking at all these pictures, he said, I want to come back as one of your cats.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
But anyway, I just lovely, lovely people. Anytime I'm in a restaurant locally and I see him or any of the sheriffs down there, I always get the chef I always buy them dessert for free as a gift, because they're wonderful people, and people that, you know, are just so unaware of how hard they work and what they do. And the firefighters up here in the mountains where they've got to deal with things all the time, incredible people, incredible. Yeah. So God bless you all greatly. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
And that's so generous of you to say, and dead on. I decided early on in my career that I was, and I held to this with one exception, 30 years. I never wrote another law enforcement officer, firefighter, medic, nurse, doctor, or school teacher, never wrote any of them a ticket. There was one time, there was an exception to that, and it was necessary. And the reason is, on any given day, and you fall in this category too, because you've just done so much good for this world, but on any given day, school teacher, firefighter, cop, medic, they all do so much good, far more than the average person. And so if I ever stopped him, that's why I would never give him a ticket. It was just a little bit of balancing out. So thank you for acknowledging the people that made such a huge difference in your life, and actually were part of bringing you on your journey to where we are today, having this conversation. It's an amazing world we live in, and thank you for making it even more amazing.
Thank you, Kerry. Thank you for this wonderful de-escalation podcast. I just think what you're doing, you and Diane, is just absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for that. For our listeners, check out our website, theidea.world, THE, idea.world. It's not .com or .org, it's .world. I know it's a little bit unusual. There's tons of free resources there for you. You can access our other podcasts just by clicking on the podcast link, training resources, tons of stuff for you. So check out theidea.world and join us every week for the De-Escalation Conversations podcast. Michele, thanks for being on the show. And for our listeners, as always, stay safe. I hope you found a lot of great value in this episode of the De-Escalation Conversations podcast. Please be sure to go to our website, theidea.world, THEIDEA.world. On that website, just click on the link that resonates with you most. If you're a K through 12 educator, if you're a firefighter, medical services, law enforcement, flight attendants, whatever industry you're in, we have specialized training for you. So check that training out, because literally it can save your life, it can save your relationship, it can save your career. So check out theidea.world. I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.